As we think about the various forms of media that we use today, it's important to remember those that have made media possible in one way or another. First, Dr. John O'Sullivan. He was the head of a 5-person team that contributed to the invention of wireless fidelity, or what we know as Wi-Fi. This invention happened in the 1990s when they used radio astronomy and engineering as a unique combination to create Wi-Fi. Another form of mass media that we use is books. We wouldn't traditionally think about this as a form of mass media, but it definitely is, and Benjamin Franklin was a major contributor to that. We know him as a founding father of the United States, but not only was he a politician, he was an author. He actually opened America's first library in Philadelphia in 1731. He also published his own books, so he's definitely noteworthy and a major contributor in the way that books are used today. Other than books, we read newspapers. James Gordon Bennett was a major contributor to what newspapers look like today. He was a writer and publisher in the 19th century, and although he did not launch the first ever newspaper, it was definitely the first successful newspaper. He launched the New York Herald in 1835, and by 1850 it was the biggest newspaper in the world, and his successes came from him being innovative and taking risks. On top of newspapers, we also read magazines. The first magazine was published in 1741 by Andrew Bradford. It was called American Magazine and unfortunately only had 3 issues and was not majorly successful, but this magazine did inspire what would become the magazine that we know today. It wasn't so much informational like a newspaper, but it was more for entertainment and kind of was a balance of both. Outside of reading, we also listen to recordings, and Peter Goldmark Sr. is definitely a noteworthy person in the development of recordings. He created the long playing record, also known as the LP. The LP could play for 23 minutes. He actually created this because he was annoyed with having to flip over his record to listen to a whole song. So that's what prompted this invention. He was also an engineer for CBS, so CBS definitely helped further the long playing record. We also listened to the radio. Reginald Fessenden was known as the father of radio because he was the first voice to be transmitted over radio waves without wires. This happened on Christmas Eve in 1906. He worked as an engineer and studied wireless communication. He worked at the beginning of his career under Thomas Edison, but later worked on his own. He also taught as a professor in universities in the United States and in Canada. Etienne Murray contributed to movies and what we know as movies today. He was a European inventor, also connected with Thomas Edison, but he created the projector that showed pictures in the 1880s, but his design was imperfect and it did not show the picture smoothly and pictures jumped, but another protege of Thomas Edison, William Dickson, corrected the mistake and movies progressed into the future. We also watch TV so much, it's so prevalent in our society as a form of mass media, but William Paley is a major contributor to the importance of television, especially as it pertains to news broadcasting. He was a CBS executive in the 30s and 40s, and in that time, CBS was one of the leading broadcast networks, and he's important to note just because in that time, TV was not like it is today, and there were not tons of channels to watch. It was really just the major networks. So all of the work that he did brought America together at a certain time every night. Everyone was watching the same thing. So he definitely contributed in that way. And Ed Murrow was actually a anchor that worked under William, and he was an anchor and a journalist for CBS. And in his career, he covered Senator McCarthy and all that McCarthy was doing to try to weed out communism in the United States. Because of the nature of the situation, although it was factual, his reporting was factual and backed by many of his coworkers under the CBS network umbrella. It was very risky, but he showed great tenacity and bravery in moving forward with the stories that he did. And it's important now as journalists to look back and see what Ed Murrow did and inspire journalism for what it is now. Other than TV, a newer invention that we have is the internet, the World Wide Web. Tim Berners-Lee discovered the World Wide Web in the 1990s. On top of developing www, he also developed programming languages including HTML and HTTP. He additionally created the browser and search engine, so if we associate anyone to the internet, it would definitely be Tim Berners-Lee. Although all of these men contributed in different ways to mass media, as there are various different mediums, they're all noteworthy because we would not be where we are today in mass media without their efforts.